Hi everyone, welcome to Bella Naija Styles Digital Summit. We've had about 3 different summit sessions today, all about African fashion and where the future is. So today is the last panel for today, reaching international audiences from Africa. My name is Tobi Idowu. I live in New York and Atlanta, and I'm a project management consultant specializing in projects that globalize the African fashion industry. I have 2 lovely fashion founders here with me. So do you guys want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your brand? Dami, let's start with you.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is, sorry, I'm a bit shy.
It's okay.
My name is Damio Lucoya. I'm the founder of Imad Eduso. I started after interning with Lisa Folabiel back in 2015 after taking a couple of courses online on drafting, tailoring, and then started the business.
Great. And Kiki?
My name is Nkiru Achukwu, PC, founder of Zephans and Home. I started 2016 right after fashion school. Yeah, Zephans and Home is a parent brand to female ready-to-wear line and the male ready-to-wear line. But right now we're focusing on the female, which is called Olukoya.
Okay, cool. So just before we get started, we encourage all our attendees to introduce yourself in the live chat box, get to know one another, and towards the end, we'll leave some time for questions. So if you have any questions, you can start putting them in the chat. So guys, before we get started into how you even go international and take your brands international, it's about setting up your business in Nigeria first. So like if we go, we're gonna have a few questions just about the basics of starting your business. So with funding, when you want to start your business, a lot of founders underestimate how much money they would need to start. So how did you go about calculating how much you would need, and then how did you secure that funding? Kiki, do you want to start?
Yeah, so for me, I saved up because I was working. I was working in marketing, so I knew for a fact I wanted to do fashion, but I just didn't have the funds to start. So I took my time, saved up, and then when I had what I thought was enough, to cover my first few months in the business, I launched.
Okay. And how did you secure funding? Was it like personal savings, loans, grants?
I was saving myself. I've never taken any grants or any loan from anyone. So it was just like saving up my salary for over a period of time. Yeah, it took me about maybe 7 to 8 months of saving to start. But then I started small. I didn't just go all out and start I just started with like a few pieces, and then I grew over the years.
Okay, amazing. And Dami, what about you? How did you figure out how much you would need to start, and how did you secure that funding?
I started initially with family funding from immediate family. And I sort of reinvested all of my profit from the business back into the business. And then it was when I was opening my Lekki store, then I took a loan from Shicluded. It's a female company for funding for SMEs for women-owned businesses.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, cool. That sounds good. So I know a lot of brands struggle with, wanting to be creative, but at the same time, commercially successful. So how do you balance creativity with making sure you still have pieces that will sell? So how do you guys deal with that balance? Or are you more focused on like commercial and not really creativity? What is the balance that you guys currently have? And Kiki, we can start with you again.
Okay, so when I started, I just I was going to focus on creating. I'd always tell fashion designers to learn to delegate because you can't do everything yourself. So I started focusing on creating first of all. So at that time, I wasn't manufacturing. I outsourced my manufacturing to some manufacturer somewhere in Lagos. So I was only focusing on, okay, I'm going to create these designs for these first few months, and then when they're ready, because I'm not the one who has to go and who has to care about how they're manufactured, how they're produced. It wasn't a lot of burden for me. For me, I just had to give them my design, go and pick up the finished product, and then sell. So it was relatively easy for me at that time. And then when we started to go to the point where we had to start manufacturing for ourselves, I delegated. So I'm only going to focus on marketing. I'm going to get someone else to create. I'm going to get someone else to take care of manufacturing, and then I'm just going to focus on marketing because that's my really strong point. So I always advise upcoming designers to learn to delegate. It's very important. You can't do everything yourself. If not, you get so overwhelmed. Yeah. That's how it works.
So how do you balance it when like you design something that maybe doesn't sell as well as you expected? Do you then find yourself in the design process designing with your customer in mind, like what will actually sell as opposed to what was in your heart to design, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So if I always I'll just say this. If you're trying to commercialize your fashion business, you have to think as an entrepreneur. It's not just about, I'm so creative, I want to do all of this, your target audience, will they like it? Are they able to afford it? So you have to decide what you want to do. As much as you try to chase your passion, you also have to make the decision whether you're trying to sell a product or you're just trying to put something out there that, just because I like it, I'm just going to put it out there. So I would just say, focus on your consumer, focus on your target audience, decide that, decide that you're trying to sell a product. So you just use that plan to, follow through on your business or marketing strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dami, for you, how do you find the balance between creativity and being commercially successful? So for example, when you first launched, I don't know if you launched bridal from the beginning. So was bridal something you then launched later because obviously the Lagos market, Nigerian market, bridal is a super commercially successful category to have. So what was that decision for you like?
For me, bridal is, I like to think of them as two separate companies, and that's how I also try to run them. So one is the ready to wear and one is bridal. We still cater to sort of the same people, but then two different audiences. So with that, I also had bridal in mind from the beginning. I knew I wanted to go into custom, but then I started with ready to wear. So with the ready to wear, in terms of selling commercially, I always like to think, first of all, the functionality of the design. The functionality of the design, I would say for new designers, I would say you have to also build structure. You have to have your business model. You have to know who are you trying to sell to, where are you trying to sell to, where are you trying to sell your pieces? Do you want to stock your pieces? Do you want to do direct to consumer? What platform? Are you looking to sell? I mean, in Nigeria, do you want to sell on WhatsApp? Do you want to sell with a website? Do you want to have much consumer interaction? Or do you want to shorten the process? You have to factor in all of these things. And then also definitely still keep your consumer in mind. So what happened over time was we always listen to our customers. We design new collections based off of feedback as well. So what I usually do is I always sort of like reinvent pieces from previous collections for new collections. So based off of what we've liked, based off of our past bestsellers as well.
Okay. And I think we have Ogwa just joining us from DZYN. Let me see if she's joined. Hi, Ogwa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Thanks for joining us. It's
Thank
okay.
you. I've been here. I don't know what happened. It wasn't showing that I was logged on.
Oh, it's okay.
I could hear.
It's okay. We basically just got started. Do you just want to introduce yourself and how you started your brand? Why you started your brand?
Okay, my name is Ogwa Iweze. I'm the creative director of DZYN. And I think it was, one of those things that, I always had in me. And basically from dressing up and, making pieces, people would always say, oh, this is nice, this is nice. So I guess that, triggered the business side. The business didn't start with a lot of structure. It didn't start with a lot of, planning. It just started, but it grew based on demand, and it grew based on acceptance, and people receiving the brand and the pieces. And yeah, we are where we are today. So we're a women's wear brand. We focus on manufacturing, wholesale, and retail of clothing, basically. Yeah.
Okay, and I had asked this question before, but I wanted to get your input on it because I know you have a background in accounting. So did that
Yes.
help you at all when you're figuring out how much do I need to start my business? How do I figure out funding? Did that accounting background help you at all?
No, it didn't. The truth is, like, accounting is one of those things I studied because I thought it was what I wanted. Yeah, I was pretty good at it, and it's a pretty sort of monotonous type of job because you do the same thing over and over again as systems.
Right.
So I guess eventually it did, because now, I mean, I'm very focused on making sure, Naira and Copper, everything adds up. But in the beginning, it was pretty much just one sewing machine, one tailor, let's just keep going. Lots of mistakes along the way that, would take days to tell, because in terms of things like inventory and, how to spend, what to save, I didn't get that from the beginning, definitely. It took a while.
It took a while. Okay. So going into our next question, just about establishing your brand before you go international. What business models are you guys currently doing? So direct to consumer or wholesale? Do you do a mix of both? And why, if you pick one or the other? Dami, we can start with you.
Okay.
So we do direct to consumer. So why we also focus based off of this is because it would affect our pricing. So it went into our pricing strategy, because if you're doing, so first of all, I haven't found many places. I just haven't personally found many places and done my due diligence, just by the way, for wholesaling. But most people want to do commission, and then now taking a percentage off of the sales, and then now having to reflect that into your pricing. And then if you're stocking locally, one, you'd be lucky because you'll be shipping locally as well. But then if you're stocking internationally, you have to consider things like logistics, customs, taxes, and all of that stuff. So we decided to also, first of all, grow the brand a bit, stick to direct to consumer, and then along the way, it is in the plan to be stocked in different outlets.
Okay. And Kiki?
I started with direct to consumer, but now we do both because the demand came in. We had like so many people who were trying to buy stuff, to resell in different countries. So I was like, I mean, that's more profit, because it didn't affect the direct to consumer anyway. We just had to increase production. So, yeah.
Okay. And Ogwa, what about you? What business model do you currently use?
So we do a mix of things, basically because for me, okay, direct to consumer, obviously, like everyone else started, but now we're much more focused on wholesale. One of the things or conversations I've had in the past is based on a lot of people saying they don't see the need for fashion shows in Nigeria because, the way it works abroad, you go there to show your pieces to buyers who come from different stores, right? So I started to look at all that, and I felt like, okay, in Nigeria, fashion shows are direct. It's consumers who come to watch, and then they order and watch and see what they like. But then, I started to say, okay, so if we can't get the buyers who are from the big stores to come, what's the next thing? And so I started to focus on smaller boutiques. And what it is that, we now sort of connect with people who have boutiques or online boutiques, physical boutiques, physical stores, but have a presence where they are. One of our biggest stockists right now is a brand called Kulio Concept, and it's in Abidjan here in Africa. And it's amazing that, sometimes you don't even realize how much market there is just connecting with people who have connect in the local markets. I also have a relationship with a lady called Icons Closet, and she's based in Atlanta. She has an online boutique, so we do drop shipping with her, and we also do wholesale agreements with her. We've opened up our wholesale, and I feel like sometimes with these things, it's easier to sort of see how it goes when you put it out there. So when we started to talk about wholesale, the first thing we did was say, you know what, let's put it out and see how many people respond. And it's been crazy because many people are responding to say, oh, I'd like to stock your pieces. And one of the other things I said was, if a lot of boutiques in Nigeria go to Turkey or the UK or China to buy stock, if I can meet their price points, why can't I sell to them to retail as well? So, we've really, really started to focus on that. And, it's very promising.
It's going well. That's good. So now you've all like established your brand in Nigeria. You're looking to go abroad, like you're looking to expand beyond the country. What was your strategy behind letting stakeholders abroad know who you are? Like, just even get the word out about your brand, because you're introducing yourself to a completely new market that doesn't know who you are. So I know some brands look into trade shows, they look into hiring showrooms in key markets like New York and Paris. Is that what is, or did you guys look into trade shows and showrooms? If you didn't, what did you do? Dami, do you want to go?
Okay. No, I haven't looked into any trade shows yet. And for showrooms, we're currently trying to get on some digital showrooms, in digital showrooms. And then, but what we did was lots of visual, when I mean visual merchandising, that has to go into web optimization, our website, our Instagram page, because that's the first point of contact for people. Then also trying to, so back into web optimization, reliable payment gateway, constantly updating our inventory online, because we don't want situations. So we did a lot of work back end, first of all, before we did our front end work, if that makes any sense. So before orders come in, to basically have done our due diligence back end. So that way we don't disappoint customers or have situations where we lose trust based off of maybe buy-in and then it's out of stock, that kind of thing. And then we also created a sales target, then broke that down into how many pieces needed to be sold per day, then intentionally decided to broaden our reach based on our sales trends, then created a customized ad strategy to boost our sales in various regions.
Okay. And Kiki, what strategy did you use to get the word out there about your brand? Did you look into trade shows or showrooms?
Oh, okay. So, no, I haven't done any trade show. I first of all started market. I said, also targeted marketing. I was targeting. I did a lot of research on countries that I knew my pieces would, do well in. So I targeted those countries and started doing a lot of ads. The response was amazing. And then I was getting a lot of requests to come and do pop-up shops in America. So I did pop-up shops in about 10 states, and it just really helped put my brand out there. I got so many, like I did a pop-up shop one time in Houston that had about 3,000 people attending. So it was such a confidence boost. It just really boosted our confidence. We knew that, okay, like if we really put in more work, we could actually we could actually conquer like other countries. And that's how it just started. That's how we started getting customers from all over the world, started getting wholesale requests from all over the world. And that's just how it has been till now. I haven't done any trade shows yet because I just haven't seen the need, but I intend to try magic when Corona's over, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually agree with that with trade shows. I really tell brands to really think about it before they do it, because there's so many. I've actually gone to Magic a couple of times, and there's so many brands there, like thousands of brands. And a lot of new brands go into it not realizing that the brands there have been doing marketing and promoting that they're going to be at that trade show for months. They've been inviting buyers, they're doing press and outreach. So it's not just like about showing up there and just thinking you can't get anyone that walks by. They've been targeting these people, and it's so expensive to go. Magic is a good one. So I think you'll actually do really well there with your aesthetic. So that's just like the thing I always tell brands, like really consider what trade shows you're doing, because a lot of the time, if you don't have the funds to go and put into like really pubbing that you're going to be there and inviting these buyers, it's not worth it. So what about you, Ogwa? What strategies have you employed to get your name out there abroad?
I mean, for now, if you're talking about present, we're focusing on Instagram. Yeah, right. Social media mostly.
Things have changed. Yeah,
that's the only way right now. But sponsored ads, targeted, audiences. So you definitely know that people in Lekki Phase 1 are ordering your things a lot. So you target your ads for Lekki Phase 1 and things like that. So we've been, it's a daily thing. It's always, we're always looking at, where are the orders coming from. In terms of people in the US, one of the strategies we use is we realized that, time difference. So when you post for Nigerian audience, people in the US are sleeping. So we started to try and do posts at midnight. And we realized that when we wake up in the morning, we see DMs from people in the US, because they would always ask, oh, do you ship to the US? I'm based here, I'm based there. So we've noticed that, we have to also plan our posts to focus on different time zones. But in terms of trade shows, no, we haven't been to any trade shows. I used to do the Africa Fashion Week London. We did that for like 2 years. But like you said, the more you start to look at your profits and your numbers, the more you stop, engaging in expensive ventures, because, you start to ask yourself, how do you make this money back? Even when we do Lagos Fashion Week, I'm always very focused on seeing that, certain pieces are going to do well. So they would convert to, orders and sales, because otherwise we're coming from Abuja, for example, it's costing us crazy money to fly people there to come with the pieces and do everything. So, I would always say to any brand, like, you have to be very conscious of how much it's going to cost you and if it's going to pay off. I mean, you can never be 100% certain, but, at least you have sort of like, some idea of, what you're focusing on. So it's not just about going to these shows. I've spoken to a lady who went to Pure in London, and she actually did get orders, and she was advising me to see how, we could go there. So I'm looking at that, because the European market, based on a lot of conversations I've had, is quite open, and there's a lot of opportunities as well. So, but I would definitely say we have majority of our orders, if it's internationally, from the US.
Okay. And a tip out there for people that may be tuning in that have looked at trade shows, they think it's expensive. A lot of them are very open to you grouping with other brands. So collaboration is really important. Get a couple of your friends who are also designers and approach the trade show, and they usually give you a discounted rate, and you guys like share a booth. So that's something you can do. So going into retail industry, which has been struggling long before COVID, with big establishments abroad like Barney's closing down, Neiman Marcus recently filed for bankruptcy. How are you guys rethinking how you interact with stores abroad? A lot of times, like, I always tell brands not to get so excited when a huge store approaches them, or any store, just because it's abroad, because a lot of times they're struggling. You don't know, the market here is so fragile that it then affects you in Nigeria. So like, when you're actually evaluating a retail deal, making sure it's beneficial to you and not just getting lost in the name, or that you're gonna be stocked in New York or London or Paris. So Kiki, like, with the offers that you got to come and do pop-ups or things like that, how did you evaluate if it was the right deal for you? And how have you dealt now with COVID? Has that affected how your stock is doing now here?
So with brands approaching me, like every time you get an email, someone saying, oh, we'd like to feature you in this place, or we'd like you to, someone would even say, oh, we're giving you exposure, we're giving you, we're putting your brand out there. So what I would just say is if you focus on growing your brand, if you focus on growing your brand to a level where you know that you get to make the decision on where you want to put it in, or where you want to, the kind of people you want to collaborate with. It's just, there's nothing like it. I'll just be like that. There's nothing like it, because then you get to make a decision. You get to decide for yourself whether does this water my brand, or are they just trying to put you on that platform because of where you've gotten to? So I just always tell people, like you said, don't get carried away by the big names, because nobody is going to try and grow your business the way that you can grow it. They're also trying to make money off you. So just focus on building your brand. Focus on building your brand to the level where you can make a decision on who you want to be affiliated with. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. And then as for COVID, in all honesty, maybe I would say our walk-ins at the store has reduced, obviously because of contact, but our online orders actually increased by, let me say, like our online orders in the month of April, because I think the lockdown started at the end of March. Our online orders in the month of April were actually higher than March's sales by about 30%. You know, so I don't know if it's because people are bored or because people are just, you know, people are at home and they're just trying to shop. Because I mean, I was also shopping from other brands. So I would say maybe because I had time on my hands, so I was able to really look at other brands and shop from them. So I would only say it affected our walk-ins, to be honest. You know,
Are
so
these
right
online orders internationally or domestic?
everywhere, international. The good thing is DHL never stopped working all through the lockdown.
Okay.
So people were still getting their orders, and you know, never stopped. And never stopped delivering during the lockdown. You know, so everything pretty much ran smoothly. Yeah, and that was because I had enough inventory. We actually like forecasted this whole lockdown from as early as February. We knew that this was coming, so we planned. You know, we never wanted to
Very
run out.
smart.
Yeah, we never wanted to run out of inventory, so we actually planned ahead and we made sure that I had more people, had more you know, bought more sewing machines, and you know, just made sure that we had enough. I did all my photo shoots, you know, just to make sure that during the period of lockdown, posting stuff and we'd still be able to sell. So yeah, that worked out really nicely.
Okay, so Kiki actually knew what was happening, was about to come and prepared her business for it, which I guess is a lesson for everyone. Like, not only just focusing on what's going on in the fashion industry, but like being able to look at what's happening globally with health, like different things, and just figuring out how could this impact my business? Because something that I'm sure a lot of people thought was happening in China, you know, there's no way it's going to affect the rest of us globally, and then look at what happened. So like being able to look at news and trends happening in other industries and figuring out if it could impact your business and making plans for that. I think that's super smart that you did your shoots, had your inventory, so you're set. That's great. Ogwa, for you, how has your retail been impacted internationally since COVID? Your international orders or like stores you usually work with abroad, how have you been able to switch your strategy since the pandemic?
Okay. I think the first thing is for me is that, you know, COVID forced us to, even though we were before, but I feel like with, you know, as a designer, sometimes I'm a bit stubborn about like the designs that you do. Like you feel like, oh, you know, I think people will like this, right? So you put stuff out there. But I think COVID has forced me to look at the consumer more than ever and look at what the consumer wants. What is the consumer doing? Where is she going? What does she need? I was on a Zoom meeting as well, and there was a lady who has worked with different brands from Versace to Gucci and you know, she was like, you know, the most important thing for us, you know, most of us who have fast fashion brands is to have haute couture logic. Approach your fast fashion with haute couture logic, which means your imaging, your presentation, everything, and then, you know, obviously listen to your clients. What do they want? So I think that, you know, first things first, I'll say one of the first sales we did locally, because we, like Kiki said, we were shipping abroad. It was slow. It wasn't as fast as usual, but we're doing that. And then one of the first clients who approached me or sent a message saying, oh, are you guys open? At this point, they hadn't announced any opening or anything. And I was like, yeah, you could come in, you know, and pick up stuff if you want, but we're not open. And she wanted one of our staple pieces, which we sell like all year round. Last year, we probably did about 900 pieces of that same dress. So this year we had focused and targeted and said, we're going to do this number. And so she called me and she said, oh, I want some of that particular dress, and it's a simple boo-boo, and she ordered 9. So we all like alerts. So when I got the alert for 9, and I was like, you know, when I got the alert, I had to send her a message like, oh, I got your alert. She was like, yeah, so you know, that's all we're wearing now because, you know, we're at home or we're working from home, so really I don't really, you know, need to. Then for me that triggered something, and I was like, okay, so definitely people will want this particular dress. I mean, this was a clue. In the past, I'd say six weeks to 2 months, we went ahead to produce 500 of those dresses. And as of today, I think we have just like 50 left. So aside from even, and that's just one piece. So aside from even just that piece, I started to see that the more casual, simple things were doing really well because people are not as, you know, there's not as many weddings or, you know, show off events because we dress up to show up. We want to show, you know, look good. So that went down. But with the casual pieces, a lot more demand. So it's, you know, also trying to listen to the consumers and see exactly what they want and not just produce what I feel like producing. Because I mean, the creativity is still there. And I mean, obviously I'll still try and put that out and see who likes that. But, you know, if I'm listening to the consumers, I have to say that, you know, it's been pretty rewarding doing that and just seeing that people want more simple, comfortable pieces. That being said, I also noticed that there was a rise in like photo shoots. A lot more people wanted to take pictures because obviously on their birthdays, they can't really have parties and stuff. So there's also that. So pieces that can work for photo shoots that look really good and work well in pictures, that has also done quite well. So that's what I would say in terms of retail.
Okay. That's amazing that you only have 50 out of 500 left. Dami, for you, I don't know if you currently had like brides that lived abroad on your schedule for this year, but how has this impacted your bridal wear line? If weddings aren't happening, have you had to adapt, or are your brides just pushing their weddings back, or what are you doing to kind of pivot from that?
So one, we did have a couple of brides abroad, and due to the lockdown in England as well, they couldn't move back in the US. So what happened for them was, one, a couple of them had moved their weddings. Two, but then luckily, because our designs are for the minimalist bride, that sort of helped in sales during this period, because now because of the scale of the business, because of the scale of the weddings, everyone was looking to do more minimalist designs than what they would usually do. So that really helped. So what had happened before then was we had started pushing with ready to wear as well. So we started offering people that, you know what, these pieces, you could get it in white as well, which would also work because we do occasion wear with ready to wear as well. So this would work really well for your court wedding look, because we sort of, what's the word, forecasted that there will be more court weddings during this period. That, you know, some brides were willing to have small scaled weddings. Some still want to have the extravagant, opulent weddings. So they decided to celebrate with court weddings first. So that worked pretty well.
I see that, especially knowing your aesthetic. I really see brides that want that more court weddings, or the ones just getting married, like, you know, in their garden or something, really going along with your aesthetic. Yeah. Everyone is forecasting. I love it.
It really went well.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to know what you guys think in terms of what factors you think a brand has to have to be successful abroad. So I know, like, a lot of times visuals are very important, because even when I'm sending materials to retailers, they don't have the luxury of being able to come to your store and touch your clothes, see how it like flows, looks on a model. So they're only looking at pictures. Like, I'll send pictures, I'll send an Instagram link, a PDF with like images. So like a lot of brands then know, okay, I have to invest in really high quality visuals if I want to be able to connect with people globally. So what other factors do you think a brand has to have to succeed globally? Ogwa, should we start with you?
Okay, I feel like acceptability. Obviously, people need to see the need for your pieces. I like I said, a lot of times, you know, when you're designing clothes, you're very selfish. You want to design things you like, which is okay, because you might find people who have the same sort of taste as you. But you know, as you go along, you start to, you know, get customers, get feedback, you get inquiries that don't convert, you get inquiries that convert. And as you go along, you start to look at, why didn't this go through? So when we get approached by international, say, websites or something, one of the things they will look at is, oh, we like your price points. It can work for where we are. And I always try to make sure that if I'm connecting with anyone, you know, not in Nigeria, I like to ask questions like, what works for people in your area? What do they like? Because, for example, my stockist in Abidjan, she likes black and white pieces. She tells me like, oh, we're not as, you know, adventurous as you are in Nigeria, so we don't really like colorful things. So when we're designing, she will still take the same pieces that we stock, but she would be specific about the kind of prints that she wants there. And it works because, you know, she does really well. The pieces do really well in Ivory Coast. So I realized that with everybody who approaches, I have to tap into their knowledge of their local markets. and understand what goes on there, because it's not the same as where I am. Even between Lagos and Abuja, it's different, you know. So I have Abuja clients, I have Lagos clients, and the kind of things that the Lagos people would order might be a bit different. Or people in the US, you know, people in the US would be asking for something in particular, and I would wonder, like, why are they buying this particular thing? So I take my time to sort of look at every market that approaches us. It's different, you know. Somebody approached us and said, oh, they really like white. I can't remember what country it was now. We've gotten a request from someone in Gabon, and I was looking at the kind of prints that she picked. And so all those things, you know, translate to me saying that, me thinking that if I'm trying to make it in any other economy or any other country than Nigeria, and even within Nigeria, I need to understand what people in those countries want and what they like, and sort of design to suit that market, so it doesn't get lost, and I don't, I'm not confused about what is going there, and I'm almost certain that they will do well when they get there.
And Kiki, what about you? What factors do you think a brand needs to have to be successful globally?
Globally. So first thing first, I'll say, well, I'm fast fashion. I don't do any custom. Our business model is just, you know, ready to wear fast fashion. Our price points are, you know, just there. Anybody can afford it, you know. So I'd say make sure you understand your products. If you're going to sell a pencil, who needs a pencil? You know, who are the people that want to use this pencil? And that's just how you apply to your designs. That's the first thing, identifying your product and the people who need that product. That way you're able to target who to market to. After you've done that, the next thing would be your visuals. Do not compromise when it comes to your photo shoots, because that's the first thing that speaks to the customer. That's the first thing that they see. So when it comes to, I mean, like I've had situations where I buy things from people and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like this thing looks way better in, you know, in person. And there's so many people who could have just flipped through because the pictures didn't do the outfit justice. So do not compromise when it comes to your pictures, because if you're trying to sell to like a global market, the first thing that they would see before they finally get to feel and touch is your picture. Exactly. Then you target. Social media marketing, that's it. That's all you, that's just the most important thing. Targeted marketing. You cannot, you can never underestimate the power of social media marketing. That's I'm speaking for myself now. That's how I was able to break into the international market, and it has been amazing. So for every designer out there, it's actually not rocket science. It's, you know, it's pretty straightforward. Just get your designs ready, or, you know, you understand your product, take good pictures of them, and you start marketing to your target audience, or the people that you feel need it. And because they need it, they will request for it. And that's it. That's just basically it, to be honest.
Okay. And then, so I can't imagine like running a business on a continent and then at the same time trying to target and reach customers internationally is easy. So what challenges have you guys had with reaching your international customers? So it could be, I'm sure, with shipping and logistics. So what happens, like, you send a piece to a customer, they don't like it. Do they then ship it back to Nigeria? Like, what is that process like, or how have you dealt with issues such as that? Dami, do you want to start?
Okay, so with that, the challenges I faced is one, logistics. So we noticed that our sales were, in the beginning, our sales were actually higher in England. And then things sort of changed over the past 2 years, and it became more of US sales. But I feel like what happened with that as well is cost of logistics. So in the UK, logistics is pretty competitive. So you have ASOS, you have Zara, you have all of these websites offering £10 for a year for next day shipping. And then you are coming here and saying that £25, £30 for shipping, that's pretty high. So no matter the value of your piece, it reduces sales quite a bit. So what we started to do as well, we started offering free shipping incentives. So what we do is you order a piece for orders over £200, you get free shipping. So that definitely did help. Then for the US, the challenges that I faced with the US was, I feel like because my prices were in dollars, and then our sizes are it's an edited UK sizing. yeah, to fit the Nigerian body type, so to sort of fit the curvy woman's body type, because our fabric also has no stretch in it. So what happened with that was we had a lot of clients ordering in US sizing instead of their UK sizing. So what we had to do with, so one, we had a size chart. So even with that size chart, those mistakes still happen. And then we'll get clients sending an email saying that, oh, they wanted to order the US 8, but then order the UK 8, which is a US 12. So what we had to do is, so for one, when I have people in America, what I do is I have them send it to them and then send a replacement. So that lowers their cost of returns. And then now, having opened an account with DHL, what we do is they also have a return label that we could help send to clients. So that makes the process way easier. And then another challenge I definitely faced was payment gateways. And it was the most annoying challenge, because there's nothing like going to chase a customer who was left an abandoned checkout and seeing that they tried to pay and they couldn't pay. But what helped with that was having a more reliable payment gateway, and also PayPal. PayPal has been really, really, although their charges are quite high, but then that has been really good to me as well. But in terms of if you want to internationalize your business, I would say definitely having a website, having a user-friendly website, having a place that, nothing brings me more joy than hearing Tink from my Shopify and then seeing that they have made a purchase without having I love my clients. I love interacting with my clients, because this is also how we get feedback and how we're also able to grow the brand from their feedback. But then also cutting that inquiry process down. So if you want to cut down that inquiry process, because also as they've mentioned earlier on as well, we're dealing with different time zones. So what happens with social media and what happens with when you're trying to respond to inquiries via email is they send a message at their leisure time. What that means, that may be 11 p.m. for them. What's that time in your time zone? Do you get what I mean? So what we tried to do was to be as transparent as possible. Our return policy, our FAQs, our website, the size guide, our product listings, and everything that we offer, you can also find online. In fact, we also even added custom sizing to the website. So we also had a number of people ask if they could get made to measure pieces, because usually our sizes are produced 8, 10, 12 to 18. So what we did was we added a custom size. So what you could do is you could pick the custom in the drop-down menu and then enter your measurements at the note to seller, and then you get a piece custom to your measurements.
Okay. I like what you said about shortening the inquiry process, because like if they send you an email asking a question, then it takes a couple of hours for you to reply, and then the whole back and forth, so it's just easier to shorten that process and make a sale instead. Ogwa, what about you? What challenges have you faced just being in the international market?
Mostly shipping costs. We decided to settle with using DHL because it's the most reliable one. Recently, I got an email from a company, I guess, trying to break into the international shipping market. And they are saying, you know, they're going to give DHL a run for their money and all. I was quite excited because I was like, that would be nice, because we've compared pricing. FedEx, I know that even GIG had approached us about doing international shipping, but when we looked at the cost, DHL was still cheaper. Basically also because we registered as a business, as an SME, and they have this SME package, so you get it slightly cheaper. But for some people, that makes them not place the order once they see the shipping bill. For some people, they don't mind, but I think that's the major thing, because for them, it's not really the clothes. The price is great and all that, but then the shipping cost sometimes might be more than even the cost of the dress that they're buying, or if they're not buying a lot of items at the same time. So it can affect, you know, the decision to actually go ahead with the order. I wouldn't say it's been crazy bad. It's been good. In terms of returns, we haven't, to be honest, had too much of a problem with that. We also did, you know, amend, we used more European sizing. So instead of saying size 8, we would say bust 38. So if we ask someone what their bust was, it helps sort of imagine how they are, unless, you know, again, they have, their body type is not regular. So we do have a pretty good, you know, fitting response, I would say. We don't have too much of a problem with that. The only thing is, if, you know, in terms of our lengths, if you notice, a lot of brands do tall and do regular because of tall people, and I'm pretty tall myself. So I stopped with making everything extra long just because it's easier to cut the length than to add the length. So a lot of our pieces might be extra long for people who are average height. But if that's the only thing, then it's not, you know, that terrible for them. Like, they could reduce the length easily. So that's my own experience.
Okay. And Kiki, what about you? What challenges have you faced?
I think maybe a little bit of sizing, maybe sizing challenges, because especially with customers in the US, because we use UK sizing, we a lot of them will just be like, oh, they're gonna order a size 8, you know, and they forget that, you know, UK 8 is very different from the US 8, you know. But I mean, this was like our initial problem. So right now we don't have that. We don't have those issues anymore, because with American customers, international customers, basically, whenever the order comes in, we still get in touch with them and, you know, reiterate, these are UK sizing. We send them size charts just to make sure that, you know, they're on the right track with their order, you know. And in terms of logistics, or in terms of, and because no matter how careful you are, no matter how much you try to, you know, make sure everything goes well, there'll always be like that tiny percentage of people who are not satisfied, you know. So we use in Nigerian shipping company called Z Express. For some reason they're cheaper than DHL for me, because when DHL approached me with their own rates, it was still higher than what Z Express was offering me. So we use them, and then when it comes to returns, they just send the customer a return label, so it's easy, and then it's not as expensive as the cost of shipping, but you just take it as, you know, one of the losses that you experience. It's not so, the return rate is maybe like 0.000 something percent, you know. But when that happens, we just send the customer a return label and they send it back to us, and, you know, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, that's good. So before we jump into questions, I just had one final question. So there are a lot of people who don't believe in international validation, or putting a lot of emphasis on international validation. They're like, you know, why don't you focus on really broadening your reach in Nigeria, then go to Ghana, then, you know, Kenya, South Africa, like actually dominating the continent and seeing that as like an achievement, instead of trying to be in New York and Europe and getting into Vogue and things like that. So what do you guys think about that personally as a brand, in terms of what you think about international validation, and then also about putting that same emphasis and value on expanding across Africa? We can go with you, Dami.
So for me, it's more about revenue. So as I said, I created a sales target. Now with that sales target, how many pieces do I need to sell a day? Now, to sell how many pieces a day, it's going to be easier if I'm selling to certain regions. If I say one in the US, one in Mexico, one in Australia, one in the UK, one in Ireland, you know, I've broken it down, and it's sort of easier to target, so to say. Now, with scaling a business in Nigeria, it tends to be difficult, especially, I would say, for ready-to-wear as well, because we are still not fully into ready-to-wear, if that makes any sense. So we still have, because our designers and our tailors and everything is easily accessible, and because our consumers also know we are producing, for those of us who are producing locally, that is, our consumers also know that we are producing here. So it's like, why can't you amend this? Why can't you do this? Or why can't you do this? It's a bit more difficult to scale. And then because, so to say, our society is still sort of small, if that makes any sense. So let me give an example. A client, in terms of referrals now, say you buy something and Kiki finds me from you, but Kiki comes to the store and says, no, I don't want that. I want something else. I want something different. So having to continually release. So I felt like for this market and to scale to what I want and what I had targeted, I would need to release more designs more frequently. Whereas at this point, I'm sort of on a the pieces that I have, I want to sell it as much as possible, because designing a new piece, at least for me, that is, a lot goes into it. Production, sampling, all of that, prototyping, a lot goes into it. So I'm sort of on the business side, and I want to push in and make as much money I can from each piece. And then I would move on to other pieces. So yeah.
Makes sense. Kiki, what about you? What do you think about, brands placing a big emphasis on going international when they haven't even scaled across Africa, first of all? What do you think about that?
I'm just like, why limit yourself? If you can sell to Europe or, America and make and earn money in foreign currency, especially with what's going on with our Naira at the moment, why not? So I feel like everybody's direction or everybody's path is different. If you feel like you want to focus on Nigeria alone, by all means, please. It's not really about validation. It's about where you want your brand to be. Like, I want to see my brand everywhere. I want to see women of all races, all sizes wearing my pieces. That's what it is. I'm not trying to make I'm not trying to make clothes for only Nigerian women. I'm not trying to make clothes for only West African women. I want everybody to wear my pieces. So if your dream is that big, do it. But if you don't have that vision for your brand, then it's just really about your choice as a designer or as an entrepreneur. It's about what you really want for yourself and what you want for your brand. So I'm not against the people who feel like let's just remain in Nigeria. If that's what you want for yourself, please. If you want to conquer the world, if you want to be everywhere, do the same. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Ogwa, what about you? What do you think about, looking to Europe and the US as opposed to Africa first?
Okay, I think first thing from your question, one of the things that, a lot of brands think is that, getting to New York Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week is validation. And from that angle, I would say absolutely not. Especially because, first of all, people don't realize how expensive it is to get to those things. It's not a joke. Like, even if you say you got a sponsor and all that, like, you still have to spend money to do certain things. I got an email from a company that was looking for designers to come and show collections at London, one of the off shows, because again, it's not the main show, it's the off shows. And they sent me like, oh, this is and then by the time I did they worked it out, cost per model, your booth, your this, your that, it was coming to about £20,000. And that was about, at that time, I can't remember, a pound was like, I think I calculated like 10 million or something. And I said to myself, I was like, for some people, they would say, oh, you know what, if you go to London Fashion Week, oh my God, you're blown. And it looks that way on paper, but that is me 10 million naira out of pocket. How am I going to make that money back? What if I don't get any buyers there? What happens next? So like Dami said, the numbers, everything is about the numbers. It's a numbers game. If I give an example, if you sold 10,000 pieces and you made 5,000 naira per piece, you've made 50 million naira in profit. And when I say made, I mean you've removed your cost and your profit is 5,000 naira only on each piece, and you were able to sell 10,000 pieces, you've made 50 million naira in profits. So looking at those numbers, you can achieve that in Nigeria, definitely. I have to say that, I've been blown away by just the amount of response we've gotten from the effort that we've put into just pushing the brand, sponsored advertising, getting people to wear our clothes and stuff like that. Fashion Nova, I've read a bit about Fashion Nova's model, and I have to say that, if you applied it to Nigeria, it would make absolute sense. Is that, they did $400 million in 18 months, and they work with 3,000 influencers, and they launched 6,000 new items every month or something. I can't remember that number in particular. But I told myself that even if I focused on just achieving 1% of that, and 1% would mean $4 million, would mean 300 influencers, would mean 60 or so pieces a month, something like that. It would make crazy sense. So even scaling down what they've done to the minimum and seeing if I can achieve those things would make sense. And it wouldn't necessarily mean me selling to any other country but Nigeria, because there is a huge market in Nigeria. Like even just saying going to like Port Harcourt and Warri and Benin, especially if your price points are right, obviously, because the Nigerian market is not mostly high end. I mean, let's not even kid ourselves. It's more, you know, mid to low market. So if you have a product that can fit that market, then absolutely Nigeria is a place to actually focus on. And that being said, obviously, you know, your eye should be big. Like your eye should be on every woman. Like it's not about where she's from, you know, like what country she is in, even about like what her spending power is, because it doesn't mean because something is 5K, a woman who has $50 million won't buy it. It's just how you present it to her and how she, you know, how it feels when she wears it. So I don't think that, you know, it matters what country the woman is in. It doesn't matter who she is, as long as she finds something that connects her with your brand, by all means, you know, do it. So, I mean, positioning yourself, putting yourself out there every single day is key, and, you know, the right people will connect with you. That's my take.
Okay, that sounds good. So it seems like you all said, you know, it's about the numbers. If your customers are international and they're interested in the brand, why not still go after it? It doesn't mean you're seeking some sort of validation, just going where your customers are, basically. So I wish we could continue this conversation for longer, but we are almost out of time. We have a few questions, 2 questions that we can answer really quickly. So one is, speaking of shoots, how do you support stylists and individuals who need outfits for creative projects? Do you have a process by which they can pull clothes? Do you donate out of season outfits? Please share, thanks. So Kiki, do you want to answer this? Do you loan out clothing for shoots to stylists?
Yeah, all the time. We have stylists that reach out to us, you know, almost every day, you know, for events, for movies, for music videos, and, you know, all those like shows and all of that, you know. So we always work with stylists. We work with a lot of stylists. I mean, we have an agreement, we have an arrangement. Yeah. And as for a lot of our things sell out, to be honest, I'm just going to say, we hardly ever have old seasons. We actually don't, to be honest. So what we actually do is work with stylists, you know. And then it also helps put your brand out there, because when the influencers that these stylists work with, when they wear the outfits, they tag you as well. So it's a win-win for everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Another question is for anyone on the panel to answer. Based on your experience, is funding important or not at all? What if you don't have the funds saved or family funding to back you? What do you advise? Does anyone want to answer that?
Yeah. So, okay. You want to go? Okay. Okay. Do you want to talk about it? Okay. No, so I have to say that one of the biggest myths that people have is, you know, if you ask them what stops them from doing something, they will say is money. And one of the things I will say to people is that just because you have money doesn't mean that, you know, the business will be successful. It doesn't mean that you will turn a profit. Like, you can actually sink in a lot of money into a brand, and I've seen it happen so many times, and you actually close at a loss. Like, you actually shut down the business at a loss. So it's very important for a lot of people to realize that doing all these great things, you know, getting the big storefronts and getting the big blogs and all that, which will cost money, you think that's what you need. That's not what you need. I think that, and it's something I preach very often now, is you can actually start a brand from just sampling. And it will not cost you that much to actually make samples and put your pieces out there to your audience, whatever that audience is, even if it's your WhatsApp story, your Snapchat, your Twitter, and your Instagram. Even if you only have 100 followers, even just start from there. For some people, they go to, now there's no obviously gatherings, but, you know, you go to big churches where a lot of people attend, and just by wearing that sample, you can start to get a clue to what people want, and you can actually start to take orders from there without even having any money. You can have one tailor who is making stuff for you. You haven't bought one machine for yourself yet. So you can start from there and start to grow gradually. So you don't necessarily have to have millions of naira to start a brand, and it never ever guarantees success. Everything is about how people perceive and accept your pieces, most importantly. So even if I always say that, you know, sometimes you design a piece that you think the world is going to shut down when you wear it, and nobody even pays you any attention. They don't even look at you 2 times. And so you're humble, because you're like, okay, so I didn't get this right. And luckily, maybe you've only made one. So you didn't waste money, right? Instead of saying, I think this is great, and you go and produce 300 of it. So for me, I really, really love sampling, because it gives you so much, it gives you such a huge clue as to what people like. Once you start seeing the comments, the inquiries, you are like, okay, people like this. They either like the print or they like the design. There's something about this dress they like. Every single time you post it, there's a huge response. So you just keep going along those lines, and somehow you might raise money from just those orders to, you know, keep expanding gradually and with sense. So that's my own contribution.
Okay, thank you guys. I think this is a great place to stop today. Thank you so much, ladies, for having this conversation with me. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. I'm sure you learned a lot. It was a super insightful conversation. Please follow Bella Naija Style on Instagram for a recap of all the sessions we had today. Follow all the brands we have here today: Imad, Eduso, DZYN, DZYN, Zephans & Co. And thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye, Kiki.